my name is Chung. I'm a licensed California guide for fly fishing the surf as well as the bay. I've been fishing Southern California from the surf to the mountains for over 30 years. This one is articulated Salty Wabbit. It started out as as a leech pattern for the bays, but when fish school, the people who make fish school came out with these articulated shanks, it made it a lot easier to do articulated patterns without having to cut a hook or creating your own wire, which was what I was just doing before, especially when the wire became sparse. I stopped making them articulated versions. So in this one, this fly is good for fishing the surf, the unweighted version, the weighted version for jetties and pilings, as well as eelgrass in the bays. So what we're going to do is, this is straight cut, so it lays straight back for the tail. It's about ½ an inch. We're going to pierce it from the back, through the hide, into the hair. Alright, and we're going to tie this down. So this goes into the vise. Okay, you need to change that thread.
You're using about 3/0 thread there?
Yeah, it's 3/0 thread. 3/0 or size B. Size B is a little heavier. I actually like using that to tie down the eyes of my clousers, because I could cinch down on it a lot harder than 3/0. Okay, if you want to use a longer tail, do a mono loop, but because this tail is so short, it's not going to foul. You can do a mono loop and do a tail twice as long. But because this is the articulated part, I don't need the longer tail anymore. So to emulate again, some kind of row sack, you use a cross cut. You can see how it's laying down sideways against the hide, where a straight cut would go with the hide. And that's what we're going to use for the body, is cross-cut rabbit. If you want a fuller, bigger version of this, especially black for fishing at night, I would recommend using either stripped raccoon or foxhair. Foxhair is really bushy, pushes a lot of water, articulates like marabou, but it's also very thick and dense. It'll hold water and be kind of hard to cast. So definitely not something you throw on a small rod, but it's a great pattern to fish at night when you're fishing for rock species. Okay, now we have the row sack down. Smooth it out a little. So when we put the white on, it'll transition easier. Okay, when you're laying down the crosscut, you always want to make sure the fiber lays back. If you tie it the other way, it gets the rabbit hair gets pretty unruly, and you'll start overwrapping the fibers. If it happens to be a really dry day, a lot of static electricity, go ahead and wet your fingers and slide it along the rabbit as you're going, and that'll control it as well. Just wrap this forward. Come from under. Pull the fibers back, cross, a couple wraps in front, and come across a few times. Pull it down, and you can cut it. What you're going to do is cut across that same line. I'm going to use that as a guide to cut my rabbit. That way it won't cut over the thread. Now I just tie this down and make a nice neat head. Okay, so now we got the articulated part of the fly done. Now the nice thing about this style of fly is you can match any color pattern you want. You go crazy, use your psychedelic colors, make it look like a tie-dye fly, or you could use all black.
What hook is that?
Here's a Daiichi 2546 size 6 hook. The original pattern was the same hook but on a size 2, and we had dumbbellized by the points, or the point we tie that in instead. Now we're going to just thread the eye, and this is pretty much how that's going to work as it's bouncing around. So get that loop back into the rabbit hair.
Some surf flies.
So tie down that open gap. Or cross-cut rabbit, and you're essentially just going to wind it up. You could actually variegate it if you want, use 2 rabbits at the same time, or you could wrap part of it, cover up the shank, put some beads in there to make a rattle, and tie it off like an intruder style steelhead, which is just basically a little fluff in the end, fluff on top, bare body or just a covered body with some beads on it. So again, we're just going to wrap this forward. Blood.
See if I have any of those.
You want to try my keys?
Try.
Okay, again, you're going to tie this off at an angle. And make sure that's tight when you put it in there, though, not like what I did.
Yeah.
Okay, now time for the fish skull, the sculpin helmet. It's made by the people who make fish skull, as well as the same people who make the articulated shank. And we're going to use clear goo, which is a dental resin, set off by blue light. There's Teflon, you can use epoxy as well. Of course, epoxy, you do have a time limit, so you want to do it in small batches.
Is fish goo available at
Right now,
fly fishing stores? Or?
yeah, a lot of fly fishing stores have it. It can be ordered as well. Make sure you which direction the hook is pointed upward, so that way you could put the eyes on in the right direction. Dab of clear glue again. Some guys are a bit anal about how they have their eyes, the pupils all matching the same direction. I don't care, so mine look all cross-eyed.
Nothing, Alex. You ask me that every time I see you, and it's always
You think your bait swims in circles?
Yeah. This is blue light. So the caveat is blue light's bad for your eyes. So I cover it up a little bit, but I like covering up because it concentrates the light on the head. About 10-15 seconds will start the curing effect. This is the same stuff that your dentist uses to fill fillings with. So it's going in your mouth, so it's not toxic. You could probably lick it if you wanted to. It probably won't make you feel too good, but if you do get it in your mouth, you're not going to die. Tough Eye is the other one that uses UV light. This uses blue light. Epoxy uses regular light. What I'm going to do is put a little thread in the front just to give a little finished look to it. And the nice thing about this thread is if you knock it against the rocks or for one reason or another it starts to spin, this thread head up front will keep it from falling off. And you can color it with the thread with markers to match whatever coloration you want. So in reality, you don't even need to use white thread for a white fly.
So Shane, why are you using the sculpin head as opposed to the regular fish skull heads?
Because it's flatter, it lays a little bit more lower profile, and it actually gives the profile look of a sculpin. But I like this because when it hits, it'll thump. And so it kind of gives a little thumping noise. And then what it does on the sand, it'll send that out, a little vibration. And whatever is around with fins on it will come over and take a look. It's got a little buggy look to it. The way the tail will move back here. So you could actually tie this on a jig hook if you want to articulate that even more. So like a 60-degree jig hook made by any of the manufacturers. All right, so that's articulated Salty Wabbit.